The Harambee Endeavor is an alliance of African students attending world-class universities. They say that their mission is to capture, inform, and engage Africa's global intellectual capital for the development of sub-Saharan Africa. Jonas Basharwed and Kendall Lewis, two of the leaders of Harambee Endeavor. They came to see me at the Voice of America and we had a long, interesting discussion.
One of the things that we know here at Harambee is that there are growing opportunities across the continent. And it is imperative for this generation to be involved, because if we don't, I'm afraid that at the end of what is a mad dash for Africa's resources, we will end up in a similar situation where many others will gain, but Africa will be left behind. So we have to be involved.
Like has been the case with Africa in the past. Well, tell us a little bit about the name Harambee. How did you come up with the name Harambee, and what does it mean to Harambee Endeavor?
Well, Harambee is actually Swahili for coming together.
Okay.
And it really just signifies kind of, the whole reason that this started. It was really Okendo and another student named Prince Soko who just thought, the first step is really getting people that are passionate about this together. So that's really where it came from. I don't know if you had
First
last year
gathering in Bretton Woods. And
Bretton Woods, that's in New Hampshire?
yes.
That's where, does it have anything to do with the World Bank, IMF? Is there significance to this?
Yes, actually, this is where the World Bank and the IMF were first conceived in the post-World War II, when the world kind of gathered to think about, how do we go forward from here? And we kind of picked it, one, because it was, Prince and I went to school in New Hampshire, and I had already been there. So we had a relationship with this group. But then it was, I guess what appealed to us was the idea that a small group of people can indeed have a huge impact. If you think about the impact that some of these Bretton Woods groups or institutions now have on the lives of millions of people across Africa, and the fact that it really was just a small gathering of people, to think that perhaps we might just be able to have a positive impact, but again, once again, starting with a group of concerted and focused people. So we're hoping, again, history will judge what happens here.
Right.
But
now, President Obama, of course, was recently in sub-Saharan Africa, in Ghana, and one of his rallying calls was to the youth.
Yes.
Talked about the power of young people.
Correct.
What is the power of young people in societies, in communities, in countries that are dominated by a generation that does not connect with, youth issues? And how empowered are you if most of the jobs are going to older folks, or most of the decision making is coming from the older people?
Well, I think it's. I think experience comes with engagement. The more you're engaged, the better off you are positioned to be able to take responsibility. So just because you're 50 doesn't mean that you have wisdom, but I think there usually is a correlation, which is why I think a lot of people say, well, the older, the wiser, but it really is, what have you done? Right? And I think that's what we're seeking to do here at Harambee is engage more and more people on the ground, so that when this transition eventually happens, we will have a generation that is not only has the theory, but also the experience, and we have to start now.
And most people say that when we see such endeavors that have happened, of course, in the past, all we do is we talk and talk and talk, but we don't ever really see any concrete steps. We have these conferences, these meetings. I've been to so many Harvard University business conferences where there's so many young, bright people. But how do you transform that into action? How does that relate to a peasant in a village in Addis?
Yeah. And I think Jonas actually can answer this question as the director of Harambee Ethiopia and what they're actually doing.
Well, I wanted to take it back to an earlier question you had about kind of the youth and the older generation. I think that's kind of where the difference is, right? So if you have a generation of people that are looking to get engaged, they're not really afraid to try new things, right? So you'll have a group of students that are really willing to do certain things that some older folks wouldn't do because of the fact that they're concerned about these other things. So Just going along with how you translate ideas into action, with Harambee Ethiopia, what we're doing now is really focusing on finance and innovation. It's called the Harambee Ethiopia Finance and Innovation Program. And one of the things I saw when I went to Ethiopia just this past July, actually, is that one of the major problems in the finance sector is that a lot of the people who need loans are not getting loans. So access to credit is a huge problem, and that's essentially why they started microfinance institutions.
I'm sure it's much worse right now because of the global recession.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I
also
mean, I think it
in
was.
general, young people, it's harder for younger people to get credit because they don't have security usually.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think it was even a problem before that. The issue is that they don't have collateral to put forth. So a lot of the major banks don't make these loans. So that's why you have microfinance institutions that were created specifically for people that don't have that collateral.
Okay.
And what we're doing is, really looking at how can the diaspora help to address this challenge. Realizing that you have people, at top companies, Fortune 500 companies, world-class universities, how can you actually add value? So what we're doing is really leveraging kind of the resources and capabilities of Ethiopians abroad to help address this major challenge. And the major challenge, even for microfinance institutions, is that they need more capital, basically. The largest MFI in Africa is actually in Ethiopia, AXI. And even that they're doing a great job, but they still need more capital. So what we're doing, we're partnering with Kiva.org, which is the leading online kind of lending platform,
Right.
to really try and bring online lending to Ethiopia. Because one thing we realize is that Ethiopians alone, by some estimates, contributed over $1 billion in remittances. So really just imagine what you could do if that capital, or if some of that capital was used to empower rural entrepreneurs through microfinance institutions. So what we're trying to do is really use what the diaspora can contribute, which is kind of technology and some of the resources to help address this major challenge.
Now, do you have members from different parts of Africa who are members who have created like this type of initiatives on a country level?
Do. And action, action, action. That is the word that really kind of started this desire, what we call this the frustration of a generation, in a sense. Why aren't things moving as fast as they should? And in the beauty of it is that literally only in 2 years of existence, we already have some action, but not just any kind of action. I think what we're really focusing here is effective action. In Nigeria, I think we see it best, where our student from Stanford, a Nigerian, is now heading Harambee, Nigeria. And what they do is they partner with some of the major Nigerian banks and in a Nigerian university to create an incubator that enables students from this local Nigerian university to enter a business plan competition where the winners get both a board of advisors of local top Nigerian entrepreneurs and also some capital to actually
to put
explore
the
their ideas. But what is so fascinating about this is that this was really the result of a power team of Harambee, Nigeria, from students from Oxford, from Stanford, Columbia, and Harvard. And you would think that they, like many Nigerians, would be focused on banking. But these folks said, no, if our country is to move forward, we will actually have to start addressing the challenges of agriculture. Right. So this incubator is geared to students, towards students who want to start businesses in agriculture. And what they've done is they've used the strength of Nigeria, which is the banking system, and the oil companies, and transfer some of that money and capital towards this effort. And so what Harambee, I think, it specializes in, and we do take pride in this, is creating these sustainable web of interests, of partnerships, in a sense, understanding that Africa really has all it needs right there. And all that needs to happen is this nexus needs to be strengthened. And so we are very much about action.